Hello everyone, Luca Blight here. I'm going to give a bit more on my thoughts about Volume 4. Now, this isn't just specifically about Volume 4, so it's not a regurgitation from the video that I uploaded a couple of months ago when the end of Volume 4 came out. This is more of a uh, accumulation, if you will, from Volumes 1, 2, and 3, and then what happened in Volume 4 as a result of what occurred in Volumes 1, 2, and 3. And I just came from a live stream from Jeff Holiday. I just want to give him a quick shout out because he's a phenomenal fucking human being. Same with Wizards of Cause. He seems like a decent dude. I haven't really subscribed to him. I haven't really followed him all that much, but I'm going to leave a link down to Jeff Holiday down below. I want you guys to check him out. He's a fucking great dude. But anyways, I'm here talking about RWBY Volume 4. And this comes from a more relevant channel, Phoenix Productions, who is going to be kind of the main guy. I'm going to say, like, hey, go check him out because he's kind of where I'm coming from when it comes to this type of thing. And that is like how RWBY is. It's a weird thing for me. It's a weird thing for me because I want it to be as best as it can be, but at the same time, I see people come out with these videos that, you know, kind of portray a good number of criticisms that they have against the show in regards to continuity, plot holes, and stuff like that. And the Mary Sue argument with RWBY is one of the biggest, like, conundrums in my own head because RWBY is not perfect. The show is not perfect, the character is not perfect, but at the same time, I kind of get where the Mary Sue people are coming from now. I kind of sort of get it. She does things and consequences don't really unfold that make her change her ways. But at the same time, she has still, in terms of Volume 4, she has still come a bit of a ways, but I'm actually getting ahead of myself now. So anyways, let's dive into like one of the first conundrums I had, or not conundrums, but one of the first problems I have with RWBY. Like, I'm not trying to like shit on Rooster Teeth. They are doing a great job with this series. They're doing a great job with Red versus Blue. Then they know how to handle things. They know how to tell a good fucking story, even without Monty, who unfortunately passed away. 3 years ago or 2 years ago rather, back in February of 2015, I believe it was. Yeah, you know, it's unfortunate that that happened. But with what they've done with Volume 3 and Volume 4, they've done a lot of good. So anyways, moving on. Oh, don't tell me we're running into this fucking problem again. Essentially, I tried recording this earlier and fucking thing wouldn't go forward. Ah, there we go. Okay, so the Maidens and the Relics. So I personally was okay with the Maiden aspect. But then Volume 4 brought in the whole Relic thing, so I felt like we're adding a little bit too much here, is it? You know, because, you know, I thought the Maidens being the Relics, I thought that should have been a thing. Let's say, for example, which is why the Maidens were sought after by Salem. Because she controls the Maidens, aka the seasons. She controls how the fuck the world functions. And we're not really given much on what the Relics are. We just know that Salem wants them, and then she also wants the Maidens for whatever fucking reason. So if the Relics allow her to control everything, then why the fuck would she care about the Maidens? Because she has the Relics, then you know, who fucking cares about the Maidens? Unless the Maidens are the key to the Relics. Or if the Maidens are the Relics. Now, Brewster Teeth says, like, yes, they're one and the same later on down the line, then by all means, I'll take back this criticism, but at the same time, I feel like it's too much fluff in what they have going forward. Like, we were just introduced to the Maidens in Volume 3. We got to know them, we got to understand what they are and how it works and all the other good stuff, and they did a good job explaining it. It made sense to me. I was 100% okay with it. And then we find out in episode, I think it was 5, that Salem is after the Relics. And then in episode 8, after Crow is injured, we find out what the Relics are, and that is creation, destruction, choice, and something else. Creation, destruction, choice, knowledge. That's it. So those are the 4 relics, if you will. And if somebody has all 4 of those, they can change how the fuck the world works. I was okay with the Maidens. I'm not okay with the Relics. I don't like the Relics. I also, at the same time, this is kind of off topic here, but I don't like the fucking 2 brothers thing. Granted, it's not terrible story writing because when I saw it and when I, you know, kind of took into what the context was behind it, it made sense. Like, I understood what Rooster Teeth was going for. You know, there's a dark brother who craves destruction. There's a light brother who's like, life, creation. I love that shit. And then they decided to create mankind, who, if we go back in history, has been the purveyor of destruction and creation. It makes sense to a degree. It does make sense. It's almost like saying that the devil and fucking God came together and said, hey, you know what, let's create this one thing together and have at it. But anyways, that's all I have to say about that. So essentially, to summarize it, I'm okay with the maidens. The relics, I need more context. Really, I do. Because I feel like the relics are just an unnecessary nuance to a very simplified version of how the Grimm came to be. Which, by the way, fuck how the Grimm came to be. That was a stupid decision on their end. I'm not sure if that's what Monty wanted or if that's what they decided in this volume. But I don't like knowing about the Grimm, or that much about the Grimm to this point. I don't. Because the only mystery now we have is, what is Salem and what does she want? Well, we know what she wants, but what is Salem and how did she come to be? So we have two questions right now. So I feel like this revelation about the Grimm, just too soon. Way too soon. Especially if they are planning the amount of volumes that they are planning. Like, we could go on just questioning, like, what are the Grimm? How do they come to be? What is their purpose? Why do some of them form the shapes that they form? Like, why are the Nevermores, like, who came up with them? Who came up with the Beowulfs? Who came up with the Alphas? Who came up with the Warbatusks? Why do these particular Grimm exist? And yet all we know now is that, yeah, some god of destruction created them, and he said, go, like, despoil the world and shit. Which begs the question, like, was there some kind of behind-the-scenes conspiracy with the Dark God? He's like, okay, yeah, you're going to create man. I'm going to take what we did here, and boom, Salem. I made Salem. She controls all the Grimm. And now that we've made our human thing, yeah, we're going to, skedaddle out. By the way, Salem, fulfill my lifelong dream. And then they, float away. And then what's to say that the God of Light created the maidens in that regard, which I don't think makes much sense. Fuck. Because there's a lot of people saying that Ozpin is the original king of Vale who ended the Great War, but at the same time he's also the wizard who created the maiden, so it's a big fucking conundrum. I'm taking fan theories here. I'm not trying to shun Rooster Teeth by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying, like, the two things cannot be one and the same. He's either one or he's the other. And then some are saying that, like, the wizard is, like, the God of Light's, like, way of saying, like, hey, humanity, I'm going to create this for you guys, since I know for a fact that my brother created this thing. Or he's probably going to create something that's going to fuck over the whole entire scheme that we have going together. Because, we finally agreed. Excuse me. We agreed on something, but at the same time, it's like, all right, I'm going to create this. Oh, okay, I'm going to create this because I think he might create that. Or, all right, yeah, I'm creating that because he created this. Or I think he created this, Basically, they're playing against each other. Anyways, I've rambled on to this part for quite a while. So anyways, next part. The kingdoms and the academies. Okay, so with Atlas, we get that they're technologically advanced and whatnot. They have all this technology. They have, like, basically the dust industry by the balls. Mistral is essentially the not arts and crafts, but they're the more artistical type of people. Essentially, they're the more expressionable people, which I'm going to dismiss the World of Remnant videos because the World of Remnant videos are fucking cheap-ass codex entries. Let's say that RWBY is a fucking RPG. The World of Remnant videos are just fucking codex entries. I should be able to watch Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, and Volume 4 and understand what the fuck Vale, Mistral, Atlas, and Vacuole are without having to watch a World of Remnant video. Like, those should be, like, if I want a more expanded knowledge on them. But let's disregard the World of Remnant videos. What do we know about Atlas? Oh, they have technology. Why do they have technology? Well, you need to go watch the World of Remnant thing. No. Fucking no. Explain your shit in your main series. Do that. Please. I get what the World of Remnant videos are meant to be, but I feel like it's a cheap way to just fill up time, to fill up a season, and all that other good stuff. And even then, it doesn't explain shit, really. It just gives you the, hey, this happened, that happened, and yeah, these are things. Have fun. But it doesn't really give you much context, much detail, if you will. But even still, like with the kingdoms, like what do we know about Vale? I mean, we were in Vale for 3 seasons, but what the fuck do we know about Vale other than the king ended the Great War? Like, what makes Vale so special? Hell, here's the fucking thing: Vacuo, Atlas, and Mistral have more personality in terms of being kingdoms than fucking Vale does. What is Vale? What is Vale supposed to be exactly? Is it supposed to be the England of the world? Here's how I kind of thought it would be. Atlas was the they were essentially America because they had all the tech. They were the super advanced military power. I thought that they would be like America. Vacuo would be essentially like not the Middle East, but I guess a combination of the Middle East and Africa, where they were more tribal, but they were still unified together. Mistral would be like Asia, or Eastern Asia, China, Japan, Korea, Vietnam, those type of countries. That was what their whole thing was. And then Vale was meant to be basically Europe. I thought that's what they were going for, but apparently not. So I'm just not sure what Vale is supposed to be. And again, and going more in depth with that, the academies, like what differentiates the academies? What makes hell? Let's fucking go to Vale. What makes what's Vale's academy called? God, it's actually been a minute since I've watched RWBY. Or Volume 1, rather. Signal Academy versus, what's the main academy in Vale called? The main Vale Academy. It'll come to me in a moment, I know it will. But what's the difference between Signal and the main Vale Academy? What's the difference between the main Vale Academy versus Haven Academy versus Atlas Academy? Because, Atlas Academy is integrated into the military, which we think, oh yeah, as Weiss said in Volume 3, Episode, I think it was 5, oh, it's an Atlas team, so they're going to be disciplined and stuff like that. But no, it was fucking Neon Cat and Split Coal. That is not what I was expecting from Atlas Academy. That is something I would expect maybe from Vacuo, who would be more open to the idea of Faunus and fucking humans integrating together. Which actually, that is something I should have put up there. Is the lack of Faunus discrimination, because we see it from the perspective of Blake, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like that Faunus are really Shadowpawn. It really doesn't. And I feel like Rooster Teeth missed a fucking thing there. Where's the discrimination? Okay, yeah, sure, they're banished to an island, but when they're on Vale Academy, I think it is actually. I think Vale is the name of the academy in the kingdom. Maybe that's it. But they're on Vale Academy, and they're not really hated upon. I mean, I was been questions Blake, but that's because she knew what was going on with the White Fang when they were trying to take away that big shipment of dust. And he was just like, how did you know about that? Curious. Very curious as to how you knew about that. But beyond that, we don't really see it. In fact, fucking, Ishak is a fucking snobby douchebag, but yeah, we see him say he's fucking Faunus, they get fair wages, but we don't see it. We don't see it. We just hear it. We don't see it. That's the fucking problem. And hell, fucking General Ironwood sounds like one of the more accepting guys, because he doesn't look upon Blake when Yang was disqualified, we didn't really see him look at Blake all that much. He could have looked at her with suspicion and whatnot and be like, oh, fucking Faunus, fucking great. Fuck. Osman, the Faunus are nothing but trouble. We know this. We know this to be truth. And create some nuance for Ironwood, because a lot of people like Ironwood. I like Ironwood, but having him be that way towards them would make us be like, well, oh, come on, dude. That's not fair. It's make me believe that the Faunus are in fact discriminated against, because we don't fucking see it. In fact, we see Faunus slaughtered more than humans, ironically enough. When you think about what happened in Volume 2, how many fucking Faunus were slaughtered there? Volume 1, how many Faunus were just axed like nothing because Penny had to show off how great she is? I'm supposed to feel bad for the Faunus? Fuck yeah, I feel bad for the Faunus. They're getting slaughtered left, right, and center by people But at the same time, should I really feel sorry for them? Because, hell, most of them have been represented by this terrorist group besides Sun and fucking Blake and then, like, the couple of people we got introduced in Volume 3. You want to say that, like, a race is discriminated against? Fucking show it. Show it. Because I ain't fucking seeing it. Hell, that captain that fucking Blake runs into in Volume 4, that is one of the most accepting people I've ever come across in terms of RWBY. Like, if you say that faunus are discriminated against, show it. Show it. Because nobody is fucking seeing it. And it really is an immersion ripper. Like, it rips you out of the immersion. It really makes you not feel bad for Blake. It makes Blake seem like a fucking whiny-ass little bitch. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. I like Blake as a character. She's a great character. But if you actually had that immersion going in, she would be an even better character. But she seems like an entitled, whiny person. So, going into Volume 5, show it. Show how the faunus are discriminated against. Not just, oh, they were bad Short Island and shit happened. I mean, with Cardin, hell, that was a decent start, but Cardin was irrelevant after Season 1. Or Volume 1. Season 1, Volume 1, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Show it. Oh, one douchebag is an asshole. Big fucking deal. Like, that doesn't show like a universal hatred of the faunus. In fact, what was it? Oobleck and fucking Port were accepting to faunus. Come the fuck on. Like, show some balls with your story. Make the faunus hated as fuck by some racist douchebags to send that point home. That's what I'm saying to you. Prove your fucking context points. Anyways, I don't want to ramble on about this forever. Anyways, moving on. So yeah, the kingdoms and the academies. Give them some character. Give them some personality because they all seem the fucking same to me. Like, I don't see a difference between them. It may as well be a bunch of city fucking states. Anyways, RWBY has a character. Oh, this conundrum. Because of volumes 1 through 3, she shows zero growth. No growth as a character. I see no change in her. I see Yang and Blake, they bond together pretty fucking well. I see Jean has a sort of like, oh, okay, I have this inspiration in Pyrrha who wants to train me, and Pyrrha takes it upon herself to train him, and they kind of evolve off each other. Ren and Nora, I kind of give an excuse as to why they didn't have any development given what happens in Volume 4. But that leaves us with Weiss and RWBY. Now, Weiss as a character, she started off as snobby, bitchy, whiny, entitled, all that type of shit. Volume 4, she's completely different from that. Like, you look at her in Volume 1 and Volume 4, completely different person. She's actually seeing firsthand, like, hey, you know, shit's going down. We need to stop meddling in, like, oh, my money, oh, my jewelry, blah, 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 my social life, my social status, da-da-da. And we see that in Volume 4, and Weiss, to me, has grown a lot as a character. Her and fucking Yang have both grown as a character, which, yeah, by the way, I'm sporting the Yang beanie hat, I guess, if you will. Blake she's starting to grow a bit more because Sun gave her that, like, freaking talking to that she needed 2-ass fucking volumes ago, and kudos to Sun for doing that. And, you know, I'm okay with Blake feeling that, like, self-guilt, because I understand where that self-guilt comes from. It all makes sense when you look at it from point A to point B, to point C, etc. It makes sense. RWBY, on the other hand, what growth has she really had from volumes 1 to 3? What in her changed? Like, in Volume 1, we knew she wanted to be the hero. She wanted to be somebody who protected the good. Volume 2, she was the one that wasn't questioned because Oobleck identified her. Like, her head was clear. Weiss had regrets because of her family. Blake had regrets because of her past with the White Fang. Yang was just an adventure seeker, but she didn't really have a purpose or a goal. She craved the freedom. Or not the freedom. She craved the adventure, if you will. And so Oobleck was kind of instilling that into them. But RWBY already had it. So I feel like that's a disservice to RWBY. I feel like that it should have been the opposite. It should have been like, Oobleck can identify that Weiss wants to change, Blake wants to change, Yang just needs a direction. What does RWBY want? Like, what does RWBY truly want? Does she really believe that she wants what she wants? And I feel like he should have posed those questions more to her than to the other three. And so we move on to Volume 3, where RWBY kind of ponders those questions. And it's like, okay, yes, I want to be the hero. I want to save people. I genuinely believe in what I believe in. And she has that chance to save Pyrrha, and she fails. So she questions herself in Volume 4. She feels guilty after she sees John, still practicing and whatnot. And we see that eat away at her as the volume progresses up until episode 10, where John is like, I don't blame you. You were brave enough to come out here and do the things that you're doing. We didn't come here because we had to, or because you told us to, or anything like that. We came here because we believe in you as a leader. And John reinforces Ruby, and she gets her confidence back. And then they go into the fight against the Nuclevi, which I'm going to get into that point later. And because of their development, they help Ren overcome his demons via Nora, because Nora, here's what they're saying. She's like, yeah, they're fucking right. Hold on, let me snap some sense to this dude, because maybe he'll listen to me because of how long of a journey we've had together. So John and Ruby shout out to Ren, but Nora's the one that hears the message. And then Ren hears it from Nora, who's like, hey, those are our friends out there. They're dying. Get your head clear together. But anyways, I don't want to get too much into that, because I think that's the next point I'm about to hit up. Pacing. Actually, this one is tied specifically to Volume 4, because I feel like Volumes 1, 2, and 3 were mostly okay. Especially Volume 3. Volume 3 was fucking from start to finish was great. Minus the whole, with episode 9, where Ruby could have just gone back the door that she came back in through, but that's actually, yeah, that's a fucking plot hole and a half. It's like, oh, you see Mercury. Well, hey, guess what? The door behind you is still open. Why not head through that? Pierce, oh yeah, actually, that's a fucking status I posted not too long ago. So let me paint this picture for you guys. So Ruby sees Mercury, and he's like, oh, you ain't going through me. Ha, ha, ha. And she's like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go out back this door here. He chases her. She runs. She intervenes in the match. Security pulls her away after she's like, Penny, Pyrrha, it's a trap. It's a trap. They're going to fuck you over. And then security is like, no. Ruby, get out of there. And then Penny and Pyrrha are just confused. Wait, what are you talking about? Pyrrha's got her own, issues going on in her head because she's about to be the fall maid, and she's not even sure what the fuck to think about that. And Paige's like, Ruby, what are you talking about? And then, Ruby screams her thing, and then people are like, oh, okay, well, whatever. So Ruby is held by security. They're like, you stay here, calm down, we'll figure out what's going on. One guy walks up, the other one stays there and prevents her from leaving. So she watches helplessly as Pyrrha accidentally kills Penny. And it's like, you feel as helpless as Ruby does. That was what I thought should have happened, not fucking she runs and makes it past Mercury and then the shit happens. Because the idea is that Ruby feels helpless. That whole scene was fucking dog shit. If I had one complaint about Volume 3, that is it. That is my main complaint, is because that entire sequence was dog shit. Terrible fucking writing. But that's one scene out of a consistency of so far decent writing for the most part, up until Volume 4. It's a mixed conundrum for me, because there are parts of it I like and there are parts of it I don't like. Blake's story, I liked it. Overall, I liked Blake's story. Overall, I liked Ruby's story as a whole. Actually, no, I take that back. Actually, I didn't like Ruby's story all that much, which I'll get into here in a bit. But with Weiss's and Yang's story, I felt like we got an abridged version of what should have been a great story between the two of them. What we got with Yang, with what we got, it was okay. It was acceptable. I was like, okay, yeah, I see. They hit the points, but they could have had a bit more fluff. They could have had maybe an extra 4 episodes, given that they are doing, 6 perspectives across 12 episodes that are roughly between 12 and 18 minutes long. That was Rooster Teeth's fuck up there in regards to pacing with Volume 4, is they had multiple perspectives and not enough time to cover it. Hell, The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones struggle with that shit. Their shows are each about an hour to 45 minutes long, and they still struggle with that shit. So I don't know what the fuck Rooster Teeth was thinking that they could pull this crap off, but I'm all about a slower pace volume where not a whole hell of a lot happens. But if you want me to believe that these characters reach the points that they get to, you need to show it to me. You need to show me. You need to make me believe that they reach these points on their own, or through other people, or what have you, mentorship, whatever the case may be. But I didn't feel that case when it came to Yang, or Actually, yeah, when it came to Yang and when it came to Wise, I felt like we got an abridged version of their story because the main focus was on Blake and Ruby, and that's fine. Like, if you want to put Blake and Ruby as the main people, hell, fucking Ren and Nora got more of a showcase than Ruby did in terms of the Ranger story, but and again, that's fine. Excuse me, that's perfectly fine and everything. I have no problem with that. I don't mind some backstory on Ren and Nora because I like both of their characters. They're both great characters. And if Ruby is just kind of like the visual we get through to see their story unfold, that's perfectly fucking fine. I'm okay with that. And the same thing with Jean. Like, if Ruby is the reason that Jean, Nora, and Ren improve, that's fine by me. Like, if she takes what she learned in volumes 1, 2, and 3 and helps them improve upon themselves, hey, cool. That makes her a likable protagonist. Just saying. But, of course, none of that fucking happens. Ruby's just along for the ride. She's just there. She's the main character, but she's just there. So, I mean, with what we got with Weiss and Yang, yeah, it was good. I can accept it. It could have been better, but it wasn't terrible. So they were 3 for 4 in terms of the stories. It's just, with Ruby, like, when Tyrion showed up and Crow was like, hey, let me take care of this dude, and Ruby stepped in, I felt like it should have been... Fuck, I don't know how I would have handled that situation. The way they handled it, I don't know, because I felt like that Ruby, she jumped in, Crow got hurt, and nobody really bitched at Ruby over it. I mean, hell, if anything, I guess to be fair to Ruby, Crow's the one that made the mistake of letting his guard down like a fucking amateur. Getting stung and all that jazz, which I think he should have gotten stung protecting Ruby, which he kind of did, but it should have been like Tyrion lunges his tail at her, but he, yeah. Instead of that fucking beam falling down on her, it should have been like Tyrion launches his tail at her, but he takes the blow, and she's like, oh shit, what the fuck? Like, what just happened? And so she, prances around and then goes in and then cuts his tail off. That to me would be a more impactful scene, because that would show that Crow cares about Ruby. Ruby realizes, oh shit, I fucked up. And then she still cuts off Tyrion's tail so that he gets out of dodge, so that he's not a threat any longer. And then when they have their conversation in the campfire, Ruby's like, I'm so sorry, Crow, I'm so sorry. Like, I did not mean for that to happen. Like, I should have listened to you. I should have stayed out of it, let you handle it, because you knew what you were doing. And then, Crow being the loving guy he is, he's like, it's fine. It's okay. I'll be okay. And then, of course, when they wake up and Crow's like, oh, actually, I'm not okay. Shit. Fuck. But, I mean, Crow shouldn't be mad at Ruby. He should be like, I knew what Ruby was going for. And then Ruby should feel extra fucking guilty, and that guilt should build up until they come to that fight in episode 12, where they confront the one and all, the Nukalave. So, how I thought this fight should have gone on. Now, what we got was good. I liked it. By and large, in terms of the grim fights that they've had, barring Volume 1, this was probably the best one. But the way I thought it should have gone is Ren's anger should have been the main issue. And then Ruby feeling guilty for what happened to Jean and what's going on with Ren and what's going on with Crow and all that shit. That should have ate at her and just made her be, hesitant to really even get involved and really try. With Jean, it's like the loss of Pyrrha. It's like, I'm going to lose my friends again. I can't concentrate and stuff like that. And then he sees like Nora get hurt, and he's like, okay, all right, we need to focus our efforts against this thing. And then Ren's, going batshit crazy and insane. And John's like, like, Ren, what the fuck, dude? What are you doing? And then Nora hears that. It's like, Ren, what are you doing? And so, Jean tries organizing a strategy. He kind of gets it. He sort of gets it working, but Ren's still the anomaly. He reaches out to Ruby. He's like, Ruby, listen, like, look, I understand you're upset, you're angry, blah, blah, blah. But if we don't win here, your uncle's going to die. And then Ruby's like, yeah, you're right. Let me jump in here and let me actually help out. So Ruby's helping out. She has a clear head now. She's good to go. John, he has a clear head. He's good to go. In fact, he's the first one that has a clear head. And he's like, yeah, let's get shit done. And then Nora also, she kind of had a clear head to begin with, but she didn't realize that Ren was fucking up. And then Ren keeps going in with his anger and stuff like that. And John's like, Ren, knock it off. We need to work as a team. If we don't work as a team, this thing's going to kill all of us. Come on, calm down, dude. So he gets knocked back, or Nora gets knocked back, and his anger just fucking unhinges. Like, he just goes batshit, and Ren's like, or Jean's like, Ren, knock it off, like how he's in the actual episode. And then after that, he gets knocked back with Nora, and then Knuckles is like, oh, I'm triumphant, I will win, blah, blah, blah. Then Nora, knocks him into the thing, and then Jean, like, jumps into action alongside RWBY, who kind of, like, Jean, blocks the charge, but RWBY at the same time is shooting at it, so it kind of slows its momentum down so that Jean is able to block it. That way we're not overpowering Jean or underpowering the Knuckles. And so when that's going on, like, they're trying to, distract it, and Jean's like, Nora, Ren, like, where the fuck you guys at? And then Nora's like, smacks the shit out of him. It's like, look, we need to work together. We're a team. I'm not going to let you kill yourself. Knock it the fuck off. Get your action in gear. And then Ren's like, shit, you're right. Like, I'm terribly sorry. I am genuinely sorry. And so that all accumulates, and then they all agree, like, okay, let's come up with a plan as, I want to say that as RWBY is distracting it, and keeping its attention that way, it's not just pacing here like, ugh, the kids, I got them where I want them. No, we need to have the tempo going forward. So RWBY's distracting it, doing the best she fucking can to distract it, and then John's like, I got a plan. Let's do this, that, and the other. Then he manages to like get word to RWBY, and RWBY's like, okay, got it, cool. I'll pin one of the arms down, and then you guys do whatever you got to do, and then the fight unfolds as is. I feel like this adds more tension and drama because, in episode 1, we saw them work together really fucking well. And then this fight, when they needed to work well together, especially as hard, they fall apart like off the get-go. And so it's up to Jean to build them back up. Well, Jean and Nora, essentially, to build them back up. Jean to reach out to RWBY, and then Nora to reach out to Ren. That way we have these 4 characters really just come together and fuck up a scary-ass monster. That's just how I would have done it. I don't know if I'm doing it better or worse than Rooster Teeth. I'll let you guys and gals decide that, but I think that might be the last point there. Oh yeah, I was going to do like a going forward thing, which I've kind of already hinted at because I feel like that this volume was meant to like say like, all right, we're expanding the world. We're no longer restricted to Vale. We're going into Atlas. We're going into Haven and stuff like that. And, we have all these new fucking villains introduced. So we're going forward now. So I feel like with Volume 5, I feel like it's going to be a bit better because everybody's kind of coming into one location. So I feel like with their format that they have with their volumes and episodes and whatnot, it'll work better. So I feel like Volume 4 was kind of a bold attempt by them. There's a million ways that people have presented like how they could have done Volume 4 and all that other stuff. And people were a bit disappointed by it. I personally wasn't that disappointed by it. I enjoyed it thoroughly, but at the same time, I understand the criticisms that people gave them for. That being said, I feel like Volume 5 might be one of the better volumes we get to see. Hell, if they're doing it in the way that I think they're doing it, and that is, Volumes 1, 2, and 3 is one arc, Volumes 4, 5, and 6 is another arc, Volume 6 is going to be lit as fucking shit. Hell, we may even see the good guys get some comeuppance for a fucking change. Because let's think about it. Volume 1, did the good guys really win? They didn't. I mean, sure, yeah, they thwarted Roman's plans, but at the end of the day, did that really matter? Volume 3. Volume 2, again, didn't really matter because Cinder and company, they improvised. And they adapted. And then in Volume 3, they ultimately succeeded in what they set out to do. Then in Volume 4, the bad guys are just like, okay, hey, we won, so let's move on with our other schemes. So at the end of the day, like, the good guys haven't won really any victories. At best, they've won, and pardon the pun, Pyrrhic victories against the bad guys, which is fine. That is perfectly fine by me. They stopped the immediate threat, but not the overall threat. That's actually really good fucking storytelling to paint your bad guys as a thing, which actually kind of a bonus type deal here. I feel like we got shown Salem a bit too soon. I feel like Salem should have been this elusive, enigmatic figure that we don't know who she is, what she is, or anything like that. We just know that she exists. So I feel like maybe she got exposed a little too soon, but that's just my opinion. The way she got revealed was fine and everything like that, but I felt like, maybe we could have held off until maybe Volume 6 to know who exactly we were dealing with. And as far as, Tyrion, Hazel, and all them, they could have just shown up and then, they could have had maybe another tier villain come up and as like Salem's messenger be like, all right, maggots, you're going to do this, that, and the other. Off with you. Then, when Cinder brings up the whole thing, and and everyone's like, well, what about the girl? And then the messenger's just kind of like, yes, what about the girl? And then she, they hear a voice, and it's like, Tyrion, deal with it. Tyrion's like, hey, but bring her back alive. Oh, buzzkill. I'm just a messenger. Don't blame me. That type of thing. But, I mean, at the same time, again, there's a lot of dynamics we could have changed. But anyway, folks, let me know what you think about what I've said about my issues with Volume 4, or, well, actually, RWBY in general, if I'm being honest with you. RWBY in general. I love the show. Don't get me wrong. I fucking buy the merchandise. There's a poster back there, and I've got all the figurines in that wooden thing back there. And of course, I'm wearing the hat. And then, funny enough, I've got the Negan jacket and Tony Stark sunglasses. Or aviators, or whatever. So yeah, I'm a merchandise type of guy. And I'm also drinking Red's Wicked Black Cherry Ale. This is not a sponsorship to them, by the way. Anyway, folks, let me know what you guys think down below. If you have your own thoughts and opinions, if you disagree with me, agree with me, what have you, let me know down below, and I shall see you all next time.